Hey people, you're on the Hillbilly Voodoo channel. This here is our ultimate ATV. It's going to be loosely modeled after a Sherp or a fat truck. We're building it out of ground obtainium. What the heck is ground obtainium? Well, ground obtainium is the stuff that we got laying around here on the ground. This is going to be an extreme low budget build. And when I mean by low budget, I mean how about no budget? If you take a look at that little picture over there, that's what we're kind of try to build here. So last time we built 2 axles out of GM corporate 14 bolts that we chopped the pumpkins out of, welded back together in the width that we need to give us 2 axles. Now today I think we're going to try to mount these axles on this frame. So let's go out into the ground obtainium piles and see what we can find for pieces of steel to mount these things with. Now we got what's left of dead red here. She's been pretty much parted out for everything that we can use. But guess what? We're going to find more stuff we can use. Frame, they're good and solid, should give us a lot of usable material. We build a hell of a lot of plates and stuff out of this stuff. And we got it, so we're going to use it. I'll chop this off, drag it down to the shop, and we can start tracing out brackets and stuff that we need out of it, or at least we got it down close to the shop, and that's where we're going to be using it. So let's hack this off and bring it down to the shop, see what we can build out of it. And there you go. We have some steel that we can use. Pack this down to the shop, and we can chop her up into smaller pieces. now that I got some materials to work with, I've set our tires up here in what I think is going to be the best wheelbase. Got them far enough apart that we're going to be able to put our third wheel in the center here for the Robson drive. Now this is not the wheel that we're using or anything like this. It's just giving me an idea of spacing, because our drive is going to be somewhere down in here, driving both of these wheels. So we got this spaced out here. Now I'm going to measure from the far side of the rim there to the near side of the rim here, and that will give us the distance that we need to put our axles apart. Now I'm going to make these axles so that I can move them in and out maybe an inch or two. Yeah, probably an inch or two, maybe 3 of adjustment, so that if we decide that we need a different gear ratio, all we have to do is change the size of the Robson drive wheel. This might be a little confusing for some people, but you keep following along, you subscribe to this channel and you follow this build, and you might learn something. While you're at it, you can give me a thumbs up. So let's measure this out here, find out exactly what our wheelbase is going to be, and then we can go in the shop and use some of that frame that we just chopped up and build ourselves some brackets to hold those axles. Now if we measure from the outside edge here through the center of the rim to the edge, gotta get the tape to stay where it's supposed to be first. To the other edge of the rim here, we have 66 inches. So that is going to be the distance between the axles. So let's go in the shop and start marking stuff out, and then we can build our brackets for the axles. Now the first thing I'm going to do here is find center of this frame, and we can build off of that. So we know the frame is 10 feet long. We got 5 foot to the center. Mark that out. Now we know our wheelbase is 66 inches, so half of 66 inches is 33. So we will mark that out. Do the same over here. So that's going to give us our wheelbase. And we got to build brackets that will hold these axles centered right in here. Now, my idea is to build a fixed plate welded to the frame with holes drilled in it so that I can slide or move the axle back and forth into the different holes, and that'll give us adjustment in and out. They make our wheelbase adjustable so that we can change the gear ratio of the Robson drive if we need to. So I'm going to do a little bit of cardboard aided design here and come up with some shapes of some brackets and a piece of steel for here with holes poked in it, and see if this idea is going to work. I got my Arts and Crafts CAD file created here, and a chunk of our salvage frame. I just got to load my CAD file onto the frame here. With my fancy inkjet printer. Now we'll go and cut that out with our high-speed rotary abrasive cutting tool, aka the angle grinder, and we'll have ourselves a bracket that the axle can sit in. We can weld the axle to it, and we'll poke some holes through and bolt it onto our frame. So I got 4 of our plates here chopped out with the grinder, with some holes poked in them. And I also cut 4 more pieces of that frame, drilled holes in it so we have adjustment back and forth. Now we'll stick these plates on like that. Put some nuts on there, bolt them in place, so we got 2 of them. Then we're going to stick the axle on top, just like that. And we're going to weld them in place. We'll just tack them for now, tack them in there, unbolt it, flip it over, do a real good finish weld all the way around. And that will be our axles mounted. So let me get this all welded up here. Well, first I'll make sure that our distances are correct, and then I'll weld it all up and bring you back and show you what it looks like when I'm done. Well, we got our axles all welded into place here now, bolted up. Nothing's tight, nothing's gusseted. This might all get changed down the road if our Robson drive idea doesn't work here. So we have them positioned where they're kind of in the middle of their travel. Now, I think the next order of business is to get some wheels on this thing and figure out the position of where our Robson drive is going to be, because that's going to determine motor position, transmission position, all that other stuff. So in order to do that, I need to adapt this wheel pattern to this wheel pattern. Now, these are not the rims that I'm going to ultimately be using. I'm going to build beadlock rims, but for mock-up purposes, I have 2 of these rims, so that's what we're going to use. Use what you got to make what you want. Well, that hole there and that wheel mounting is 10 inches across, and I believe the other one is only 8 or 6 inches across, so we're going to have to adapt that down to the other size, and we're also going to have to build it as some type of wheel spacer so that we can get the offset correct without having to change these rims. Now remember, these adapters are just temporary. They're not going to be the end all be all, but they will get us in a position that we can put 2 of these tires side by side and then figure out where the Robson drive is going to go in between. So let's wander around in the piles of ground obtainium here and see what we can find for some pipe and some flanges that we can build an adapter out of. Now, I've wandered around here for quite a while, and you would think that in all my piles of ground obtainium out there, I would have some pipe that would fit over these hubs nice and snug. But that's the closest I can find. Way too friggin' big. So, what are we gonna do here? The only thing I can think is to cut sections, little strips, wrap them around the hub, tack them together, weld them together, then we'll have a hub that goes nice and snug around here. Now these are the little spacer adapters, wheel centering things off of the dually wheels, so we can use that as the back flange. We can make something that fits around this hub to weld to that flange, and then we'll have to build a larger flange or find some steel to build a larger flange for the outside. The rim will bolt to there, this will bolt to the hub. It'll give us this just happens to be the proper back spacing, 3 inches, so that should give us what we need. Now, cutting a bunch of strips out of this and making our centerpiece here, that's kind of ghetto, but these are temporary. They're not going to be forever, so it'll give us what we need at the time right now to get these wheels on here so we can get everything figured out for the Robson drive. Now everybody says that I'm a hoarder. Yes, I have junk everywhere, but I'm not a hoarder. Anything that I have, if somebody else needs it, I give it away. So I don't always know what's out in those piles, because more often than not, if somebody needs something, they come on over. I say, go look what you need. They go out and grab it. So unfortunately, the giving has been getting more than receiving as of late. So the piles are getting a little bit smaller than they used to be, and some of the materials aren't quite as usable. But we're going to use what we got. We're going to make what we want. And you guys can follow along on this ride and see how we do it. So remember, if you like this stuff, hit the subscribe button so that you can find us every week. And yeah, let's stop the yapping here and let's actually get something done. Well, I took that piece of pipe and I chopped it up into little slivers. And I took the spacer for the dualies, bolted it on there. So now we're going to take these little pieces and we're going to weld them all the way around so that they're kind of like one piece, like a piece of pipe. I've put a piece of baling wire on here, and I'm going to put another one on right here so that it gives us somewhat of a shim, so that after all these welded together pieces cool and shrink, we'll still have some wiggle room to get this thing over the hub. And yeah, hopefully this works. It's going to be quite a bit of welding here and quite a bit of tacking. So after I get this all blobbed together with my hot glue gun, my magic metal hot glue gun, then I will bring you back and show you what I've come up with, and we'll see if it's going to actually work or not. Well, we got our pieces all welded together here now onto that back flange, and slides on and off. Kind of looks like a Frankenstein thing, but we'll stick her in the lathe and clean it all up and make it look half decent. Now all we got to do is find some metal to make a flange on this side that's 10 inches. But this video is probably getting a little bit long, so I think we're going to leave it here. I have to go out and do non-YouTube stuff that actually pays the bills right now. So I'll have to leave you guys for this week. And until next time, use what you got to make what you want, and I'll see you later.